So we're in Greenford on the Paddington Arm of the Grand Union Canal, and we're not loving it. We're not loving being in London. If you've been following us for a while, you'll know that when we were at Braunston, we were planning to head west towards Birmingham, but for a number of reasons we decided to come and do London instead. It's just, even though there are green spaces, like we're in a place called Paradise Fields, just kind of feeling really closed in, and the weather's not helping. It's really hot. It's 32 degrees, and I feel like there needs to be more of this rain before it cools down. So we found a mooring in the shade, which makes a huge difference. I need the ball here, George. Oh, I just hit the dog. But it's still ridiculous. It's still too hot. I think we'd just feel a bit better about it if we weren't in a city. There's just so much rubbish around, and there's so many people around. I mean, obviously, because it's a city. And people are just disgusting. The canal is full of litter. The fields are full of litter. The litter boxes are full and then surrounded by litter. I mean, we want to do London. We want to see the canals. We want to go up the Regent's Canal. We want to come back down the Thames. We want to go and do the Lee and the Stort. But it just feels like such a long way. Not really where we want to be right now. So we got to that mooring at the pub 2 days ago, and we just stopped there because we'd run out of energy.
Way low on energy.
And it was okay. It was a bit noisy. There was some guitar playing late at night and stuff.
Yeah, there was some really bad guitar playing late at night, very late at night, like 2 o'clock in the morning. There was still somebody strumming a guitar. And then across the way, there was some sort of massive diesel generator or something that was just running all night. So it was quite noisy.
And then in the morning, we were in the full sun, so it got really hot really early. So we kind of had no choice but to move on. And we didn't want to move very far. I thought I'd found a mooring just around the corner, but it was too shallow, so we had to go a little bit further.
Yeah.
And we found one which is still a bit shallow, where we're kind of grounding out.
But it's not as bad.
It's doable, and we've had full shade for the last 2 days, and it makes such a difference in this heat.
So yesterday morning, the only cooling I could get done was by sticking my arm into the canal to clean out the weed hatch. And today, there's been this extremely disappointing, fitful rain that just happens every once in a while, where it's like one drop on your nose, and it's like, oh yes, please, and then it doesn't happen.
And it's supposed to cool off.
But we do have this really nice field we're throwing for George.
Yeah, we found out what the weed was called. It's called duckweed.
Yeah, so it's apparently a major problem. It's just little tiny weeds. I mean, they're little tiny plants that just float on the surface, but what happens is they can double in days. They can double in size and then double and double and double and double, and so they can really rapidly take this huge carpet of duckweed across the river. They drown out other species by not allowing oxygen into the water, so they can cause problems for other wildlife and stuff, and they can look like grass, so dogs go, oh yes, I will walk on that, sploosh. But other than that, it's not really that bad. It's just really,
it's not pretty.
It's kind of pretty, but after a while it gets
kind of
annoying.
It's not pretty because the rubbish just floats on top of it.
Yeah, well, that's the rubbish's fault, right? Like, I don't blame the rubbish. The duckweed looks pretty cool. It's the rubbish that looks pretty bad. I'm looking forward to the actual Regent's Canal. The section through Paddington Arm up has been a little bit on the crowded side, a little bit on the dingy side, not a lot to actually see other than sort of large amounts of construction at the sides of the canal. I mean, there's these nice sections of green which are cool, but then
they're covered in rubbish and they're full of people, which
Yeah.
is fine. Like, obviously people can use it, but
people good, rubbish bad.
and it's the people
And
that
people
leave the
bring a
rubbish.
lot of rubbish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The towpath is like really busy with cyclists, and I think it's the first time we've really experienced like relentless cyclists.
Relentless. Like
So-
every couple of seconds there's
Well,
whiz,
every
whiz,
couple of
whiz,
minutes.
whiz.
And so we have to be really careful of George because he's not aware of them and they don't slow down for him. I mean, some of them ring the bell and are friendly, but others just whiz past.
At like easily
Too
40
fast.
miles an hour. There are some nice things about it. We're just like a block away from Brompton, the manufacturers of the folding bicycles. We've passed a couple of large manufacturers of Indian savories, like snacks and stuff. So that's kind of nice and smelling.
We've had-
Apparently there's way more of them in a little bit of ways. We're going to be passing through a section of industrial food production.
You found a nice Polish shop.
Yep, found the nice Polish shop, met a tiny snake. It's like George really likes this field. Don't want to complain. I mean, I actually kind of like it. It's just I do feel the sort of congestion of people,
Yeah.
you know. Well, it was a bit of a mooring problem because Joe's garden is sort of hanging up there and was interfering with these branches, so we had to move back and forth to try and keep ourselves out of these lovely acorn trees.
But branches need shade, so that's why we're under them.
Yeah, although that hasn't been good for our solar, so we're actually low on power this morning for the first time in quite a while.
So we're just leaving Greenford, heading into central London for the first time, hoping to get a mooring in Paddington, which is only about 2 or 3 hours away.
Yeah.
If we don't get a mooring in Paddington, we'll keep going until we find a mooring. Don't really want to go up to Camden Lock today, but we might do.
Yeah. As you can see behind me, there is a morass of duckweed, which means that pretty much everything that we could run over that I would normally try and avoid is hidden from me.
And my brother's with us today, so
Yeah, so we got another ride along, so that'll be fun. And yeah,
let's go.
okay, through the duckweed and on. This duckweed stuff really is amazing. Like, it looks like split peas or some sort of legume. The individual components are just, the individual plants are just these tiny little sort of half split peas. And they grow in this massive green carpet that essentially just nothing can really harm it for very long. Like, I'm coming along and messing up its path, but it'll all just flood back in and be a solid carpet again in a few minutes. It's just crazy. They have these like dedicated boats that come along and just skim the stuff off the surface, and they're not even making a dent in it apparently. Like, there's just so much of it. This heat wave has just really helped it grow. So, you know, at some point, if somebody can figure out a way of turning these things, like digest them or something, into some sort of food or a fuel, it would be great. Really great, because there's lots of it. We have entered the cloud of savory food production. It smells like all manner of spice at once, like a punch to the face. Oh, there's bits of good. And this is the North Circular Aqueduct. It is a massive aqueduct over a big road. It is very noisy, and it still smells of the foods of all cultures at once. got filmed and waved at by all the people on the bridge back there. We're now officially a tourist attraction. Little Venice. Busy as ever. Lots of boats, lots of noise, lots of tourists. London. And apparently this building over here is an architecturally engineered building, as opposed to, I guess, any other building that wasn't engineered by architects. I thought that's what architects did. Anyway, over there, Paddington Station, sort of right smack dab in the middle of everything. So we're in the Paddington Basin, and it's windy as all hell.
Which is why we're recording inside. We started recording outside, but it was too windy, so we had to go back.
I apparently needed some extra praise for my parking job, but I required it. But we did in fact do the parking okay. Basically pulled into the basin, went down to the end where there was a bunch of canoes, got yelled at by a woman who was telling me not to moor where I wasn't trying to moor. Spun around and came back.
Double moored. You can't see, but there's a boat right there.
Yeah, we're side on with another boat.
Because we're in London, we're double moored.
So it's pretty good, except for we're on the water side, and there's these go boats, which are like little tourist boats that are rented out to people with absolutely no instruction of how to actually drive a boat.
So you've only been hit once so far, but
but there's been about 50 near misses, so you know it's fun. Beautiful little area. I mean, you know,
it's really nice.
The architecture and everything is really pretty cool. Last time I was here, they were sort of rebuilding, like parts of it hadn't been finished yet.
Yeah, so there's some construction down there. But like the whole way I was like, I really want to get a mooring in Paddington, and we did.
And it's a 7-day mooring, so we can stay up to 7 days, so that's really cool.
So it's quite an interesting cruise down here. For a lot of it, you didn't feel like you were in London because you're in this protected green corridor.
Yeah.
It felt a little bit industrial and there was a lot of rubbish, but you didn't feel
I would say a lot industrial.
It was a mix of old industrial and new industrial as well.
And then we passed through the Wall of Smell. Mexican, Indian, like several different types of Middle Eastern and Asian food, all sort of, it was like they were just manufacturing it all at once, so it was just every smell in one amazingly powerful punch in the face. And
there's like loads of different boats.
Not a lot of traffic though. That was nice.
No.
There was a lot of boats that were moored up, so there wasn't really anywhere to stop.
There was a few. I was surprised at how many moorings there were. Like until you really got to Kensal Green, it started to get busier. But even just outside here, there was like you'd have to double moor, but there were spaces.
Yeah, well, especially if you were smaller boats, and there was some really nice-ish spots along the way.
And some really horrible spots as well.
There's a lot of places where I'm pretty sure it was just silted up.
Under that big road was awful.
Yeah, that was huge. And there was a lot of duckweed, a whole bunch of duckweed, and there were multiple small boats that were doing the job of trying to clear the duckweed. It was really funny when we came across that one. There was a little tiny duckweed boat sitting beside an enormous barge that had been filled, they're going back and forth and clearing as much duckweed as they can and then filling up the barge, and they basically have to use shovels to get it into the barge. But the complete thing is completely surrounded with duckweed. Yeah, it didn't even look like the boat had done anything.
It didn't look like they cleared anything.
No.
And then just as we were coming into Little Venice, there's like quite a narrow, low bridge, and this other vehicle came whizzing through that was like scooping up the duckweed. And I was
That
like,
looked much more efficient.
oh, we'll have to wait for it to pass. But then it pulled over to the other side, and I was like, oh, he's letting us pass that way. But then he scooped up some duckweed, spun around. Michael had to like slam into reverse to stop hitting him,
Yeah.
and then he was back off. And I think he probably just thought, oh, I'm going to be really quick, so I won't.
And they are very maneuverable. It's
But,
just
like, he
you really
should've-
wish they'd warn you which
he-
direction they intend
yeah,
to
I
go
think-
in. And then down here, the basin is pretty much completely clear.
Do you think it's clear because of those bubble?
Well, I think the bubble, they have these bubble gates. So basically they've got a constant air supply that's throwing bubbles up into the canal at a couple of choke point bridges. And it does seem to keep the junk from floating in. Yeah.
Like I'm.
Oh, the tourists were really nice.
Oh yeah, we got.
People were being very sweet, didn't understand a word they were saying.
Like I'm glad we've come into London. I'm glad we're seeing it from the boat. But I'd much rather be somewhere else.
Yeah, that's my thing too. I'm glad we're here. I'm glad we're visiting it. I want to spend some time here. I mean, we've been to London, obviously. Like you've been to London your whole life. I've been to London quite a few times, but there's a lot of stuff that I haven't sort of gone to, and so there's always sort of a little bit of a draw. But as we were boating along, the number of times where I was just like, I would not want one of these moorings. Like, I mean, I wouldn't mind staying there for, a night, but
To be one of, like I know people have to do it because they work in London, but to be one of the boats that has to come backwards and forwards, like...
doesn't look pleasant.
No.
So that was our trip into London proper via the Paddington Arm and I guess we're on the beginning of the Regents, or is that when we turn?
I think that's when we turn.
We're not quite on the Regents.
So next time we'll be on the Regents, and it will
Camden.
be, the Islington Tunnel. I think there's another little tunnel.
Yeah, there's 2 tunnels. There's Camden.
The Camden locks.
And sort of to a certain extent where it all began. For us.
you.
For me. The inkling of the idea came from one of the locks in Camden. So, we'll see.
Yeah.
So, thanks for watching. Like, click, comment, subscribe, hit the bell-shaped button-y thingamadoo, and enjoy.
Yeah, we're not enjoying being in the city. We want to go north. We want to get out of the city. George! Come here! George! Want the dog to behave. George! Georgie! Georgie, come here! George! George! He's doing okay.
This encourages us to not talk for as long. Well, it encourages you for...
You're the one that's got the problem with talking.
Yeah, I know. Yes. Hello. We have branches in our faces. This is we got an itchy nose.